Welcome back. The Michelin Guide to Fine Dining has been accused of stuffiness over time, and well, it might. It dates back to the year 1900 when the tire company decided it could encourage more driving if it offered free guides to scenic sites around France. It has grown over time to become one of the most important judges of a restaurant's quality. Just being listed in the guide bestows relevance on a restaurant. 1 star indicates the restaurant is top of its own category. 2 stars is a restaurant that is worthy of a detour, and 3 stars, one so special it's worth a trip all on its own. Over time, the mystique of Michelin has grown, and now it's coming to Canada. After many years of being snubbed, Canadian restaurants will face the anonymous scrutiny of the Michelin inspector. For some, that may mean a huge boost to their business, but as many a chef has said over time, it can be a mixed blessing. Nick DiDonato is president and CEO of Liberty Entertainment Group. Nick, great to have you with us.
Having me, Amanda.
So let's just start with Michelin coming to Canada. Is it a good thing? Is it a big deal?
Well, listen, I think it's one of the biggest events that's happened for the hospitality industry in Canada and in Toronto. It really is relevant in that, the Michelin Guide is one of the most reputable in the world, and they now believe that we have a significant culinary scene here in Canada and in Toronto to warrant a guide of its own.
So with the guide coming, what do you think it will mean to the restaurant scene? Will there be restaurants who say, hey, we're probably in the running, and what do they start to do to prepare for that, if anything?
Well, I really think it's going to elevate the culinary scene in Toronto. People will be preparing to acquire a star, and it's not an easy task. I think the Michelin Guide and their rating system is one of the most stringent in the world, and it's real. It's one of the very first guides we've had here in Toronto, which really looks at the food and what we are doing and determines how well we're doing it. So I think it'll really help elevate that level of service, elevate the level of the culinary scene here in the city.
And is it safe to say that getting a star, or even being in the guide, because for them to recognize you as a restaurant worth listing is something, we should say that, but getting a star is where it's at, if not 2 or 3. Will that draw tons more people to a venue? Is it just goes without saying that that will be a kind of a win in terms of your sales?
Yes, absolutely. Having a Michelin star is one of those things that really gets people in your door. It's an important signature for a restaurant, and it means that it's warranted. Because the guide does come to the restaurant not once, not twice, but over multiple times to ensure the quality of service, the level of the culinary expertise is in place, and to have a Michelin star is quite the award.
Do you think that there are restaurants that are sort of obvious candidates when you think of the list? Probably there would be a handful that you could probably name off the top of your head that'll likely be visited, but would we know them already if we thought about it?
I think you can identify a few that have always been at the top of some of the other ratings in the city, such as Open Table or Canada's Top 100. So, those restaurants which achieve, great ratings and strive for, great service will most likely be among the list of the restaurants that will obtain a star. But you never know, because really it is about how you perform when a Michelin Guide reviewer comes into the restaurant. So if you have a bad day, it's challenging to get that star. Really, it's about being constant and being on your game.
And I guess that's an interesting kind of point, that we've gone to this place where we've sort of open sourced reviews. We rely on regular people posting online. They have a lot of power, actually, Nick. This is the opposite end of the spectrum. This is an anonymous inspector for a French company with kind of a mysterious system of their own. Is one better than the other?
Well, listen, I think, in this day of social media, most of that is about hype as opposed to substance. And I believe the Michelin Guide will put substance before the hype. And I think that's really where we draw the line here. And so it is an award provided by experts in their field who have sort of, obtained that sort of knowledge to be able to give you a rating. So I think this Michelin Guide is going to be the real deal and will really help elevate the culinary scene.
Thanks for being with us, Nick. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Nick DiDonato is president and CEO of Liberty Entertainment Group. Time for the takeaway and trying to win fans. When it comes to tourism, Canada has always been a little behind the eight ball. The majority of tourists in the country are Canadians, visiting one part from another, which is great. And as we all know, from historic and beautiful PEI to wild and rugged Newfoundland, to cultural Montreal and the hidden valleys of Saskatchewan, to the Rocky Mountains and pristine ocean of the West Coast, we do have it all. What we don't have is international visitors the way we should. In fact, about 3/4 of the tourism spending in Canada pre-COVID was by Canadians. Why is that? Well, for starters, our most obvious market, the United States, is full of navel gazers who don't own passports. As the saying goes, they tend to think of Canada like their attic, a place you seldom venture, but when you do, you find some cool stuff. Then there are the two oceans, which separate us from the rest of the world, but tell Australia that that's a problem for tourism. Canada should be able to do better. It's true that recent events may have hurt our reputation just a little. The COVID restrictions that were so effective mid-pandemic lasted longer than many, dare we say most, other countries. The so-called Freedom Convoy protests in Ottawa painted a picture of discontent here, and the Emergencies Act that was invoked made headlines around the world. Of course, long waits at our busiest airports don't help. So we may have a little PR damage control to do, but given our natural advantages and the sheer diversity of things to see and do here, including diversity of people, Canada should be crowing to the world about what we have to offer. My takeaway? There is a lot more to Canada than Mounties and maple syrup. Let's strive to be one of the top tourist destinations in the world and stop getting in our own way. That's Taking Stock for this week. I'm Amanda Lang. Thanks for being with us.